ahead. I'll introduce David. So for those of you who haven't joined before, we are super grateful for David to be willing to do this Real Talk series. This is something that David does complimentary. We're not paying him to do this. He just wanted during COVID to do a give back to the industry, invite his friends and colleagues to join and be able to provide high quality CE for everyone. So super grateful for David to do that. David is a world-renowned cosmetic dentist. People fly from all over the country to hear him, to have him do work for them. I myself have thought as soon as I need it, I'll get it done. I've got like a peg lateral here that I've been telling David for a little while. I want to have redone, have him hook me up. And he also does courses. He's always, traveling, teaching. If you want to check out some of the content that he's producing or sign up for some of his courses that are upcoming, you can go to davidhornbrook.com. So davidhornbrook.com if you want to check out his website. I'll go ahead and throw it in the chat here in just a second. Outside of dentistry, David spends a lot of time down in Mexico. He's got a place down there. If you didn't know this, I'll share it. He was a swimmer in college, and he and Gary actually went to high school together. He was telling me. So that's kind of fun. Small world.
Yeah. So we've known each other 10 years, right, Gary?
10 years.
David, I was actually thinking about that today in prep for tonight. This will sound crazy. We met 50 years ago, right now. We met, you'll probably remember, but we met at Gillespie Pool as freshmen for the water polo team.
That's awesome.
That was 50 years ago. Crazy, huh?
That was 48.
Was it 48?
Yeah, that would have been 74. Yeah.
You're right, 74. Yeah, I guess so. That would have been.
Your memory is going a little bit. I guess
it's starting to go.
I was sold on the number 10 years ago when they graduated.
Actually, I feel like it should have only been.
So that being said, I hope everyone knows I'm grateful to have Gary here, or I'm grateful to have David here doing these every single month and giving back to the industry a great value add. And really admire who David is. So thank you, David, for doing this.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And it's been fun. We've had a really good time. And, Stephen is not a dentist. He's not so much in the dental field. He's with dental intelligence, but I think he could probably talk the ears off most dentists because he sits here and he watches these podcasts every single time. Goes, man, I like that. I want to do that. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. I do want to thank our primary sponsors, the people that make this free for you and allow us to have free CE. And that's Dental Intel. I think most of you heard me say that, I had the same dental software for 35 years, Practice Works. And when I got introduced to Dental Intel, I said, you know what, I need that in my practice. And so I actually changed software just so I could use Dental Intel. And I'm glad I did. It was a lot of work initially, but it's an amazing software program. They're our primary sponsors. Steve works for them. Second is Utah Valley Dental Lab, and they're here in Utah. I'm the director of education for them, as well as the education and technology supervisor there. And so I'm very lab savvy. If any of you have any questions, as Gary talks, if you have a question about something in the lab, that's kind of my expertise. But, Gary, as he said, we've known each other 48 years. So we went to high school together, played water polo and swim, and then surfed a lot. He'll probably tell some stories. Don't believe everything he says necessarily, but it was the 70s. But we had a good time. We got to know each other, and then we kind of drifted apart. He got back into dentistry. He's not a dentist, but he owns a couple dental practices. But he's got into the management and the coaching side of dentistry. And we were reconnected several years ago, and we've kind of followed each other's careers, and we've lectured on the podium together, and we really had a good time. So, I wanted to kind of mix it up for us tonight and be non-clinical like we have in the last 20 episodes. So without further ado, Gary, thanks for taking your time. You're in Arizona, and I appreciate you taking your time away from your family and your beautiful wife and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Steve. It's an honor to be here tonight. I'm excited about sharing. Let me go ahead and share my screen, if I may. Give me just a second here. I want to... let's see if I can share. Are you all seeing my slide deck now?
I am.
Go ahead and push play, and then we'll send
play.
Right.
This should be my cover slide here.
Yep.
Yep, everyone's seen that? Great. We have the slide deck working. Before I start, I want to take a minute and recognize also our sponsors and thank our sponsors. As David mentioned, Dental Intelligence, primary sponsor. I've been a friend of Dental Intel since its founding. And I did the same thing that you did, David. In my practice, we had SoftDent, old tired practice management software that didn't sync up with Dental Intelligence. So I converted to Open Dental so that I could use Dental Intelligence. Steve, thank you for hosting this, and thank you to your amazing team for being so supportive of our profession. I also want to thank David, you for all that you do for our profession. David, you're such a gift to our profession. I love the way you influence dentistry in such a positive way, in so many ways. And also Utah Valley Dental Lab. Been a friend of Utah Valley Dental Lab for many years. In fact, David, our son, Nick, who you've met, Nick has a Utah Valley Dental Smile that was done by Dr. Rod Gore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was, we had a 10-unit upper interior smile design that Rod did. This is before I owned a practice. Rod did that before Nick headed off to college at College of William Mary in Virginia. So he's wearing a Utah Valley Dental Lab smile. Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, hey, tonight we're going to talk about a proven plan to successfully drop PPOs. I like to think of this as your path to a thriving practice. I have a podcast. I'll talk about that in just a minute. It's called The Thriving Dentist Show. And many times our listeners will ask, well, what does it mean to have a thriving practice? And my explanation of that is that it's a practice that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction. Personal satisfaction to me means you're taking care of people you enjoy, surrounded by a team you love. Professional satisfaction means you're doing more of the kind of dentistry you'd like to do, whatever that is. Whatever dentistry you love to do, you're doing more of that. In your case, David would be doing more gorgeous aesthetic dentistry. And financial satisfaction, more self-explanatory. It means you're being rewarded handsomely for your care, skill, and judgment. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. A little bit of background on me. As David mentioned, I'm not a dentist. My background is the business and behavioral side of dentistry. This is our newest grandson, Kanan. Kanan is 2 years old. And we were out on a walk the other day, and my wife got that picture. I'm a practice advisor, a practice coach. I own a consulting firm. I started that in 1989. It's called the Thriving Dentist Academy. And myself and my team members are committed to helping dentists develop their ideal practice. I've had the privilege of speaking at just about every dental conference in North America. It's kind of crazy, but I added it up at one point, David, and got over 21,000 hours from the podium. I'm a nerd. I don't mind admitting that. I love technology. I started the very first dental podcast called The Thriving Dentist Show. Today, there's 142 dental podcasts, and we're rather proud of the fact that we are number one with listeners in 188 countries. I teach at the Pankey Institute. In fact, I'll be headed there on Saturday down in Key Biscayne, Florida. I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Pankey very early in my career, and he had a great influence on my life. And I was honored to be invited as part of their faculty a number of years ago. I teach the business and behavioral courses at Pankey. I'll be headed down to Key Biscayne, Florida this coming Saturday. I'll be there for a 3-day essentials course. And then, as David mentioned, I have been a practice owner. In 2007, I learned that you didn't have to be a dentist in Arizona to own a practice. And so I partnered with Dr. Paul Nielsen, a young dentist who's a 2005 graduate of the University of Washington School of Dentistry. And we bought a dilapidated backwards fixer-upper practice. And it was had ankle-high orange shag carpet, avocado green countertops, film radiographs. Remember those, David? Remember the stinky film that you'd have to put in the tanks? We had those. Paper charts. This was '07. But it did have about 1,000 active patients, and we thought that represented a good place to start. And for the next 14 years, from 2007 to 2021, we worked to develop that into our ideal practice. We added a second doctor, Dr. Tim Schmidt. He's a 2010 graduate of Oregon Health Sciences in Portland. He joined us as an associate in January of 2013, and he became a partner in late 2014. Paul and I diluted our 50 shares to a third. And just last year, we had a buy-sell agreement between myself and Paul and Tim, and I sold my third of the practice back to Paul and Tim so that I could focus this next season of my practice on my coaching and helping as many dentists as possible develop a thriving practice. I'm still involved with the practice as an advisor, and I still feel it's a very important part of my life, but I'm no longer an owner of that. But those 14 years was amazing because I wanted to have a practice as a test kitchen so I could test concepts and then apply them when I was teaching. So a little bit about life smiles. So my goal this evening, help you develop a thriving practice that, as I mentioned, provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction. And as I said, personal satisfaction to me means you're taking care of people you enjoy, surrounded by a team you love. The professional satisfaction means you're doing more of the kind of dentistry you love to do, whatever that is. And finally, the financial side, you're getting rewarded handsomely for what you do. And that's my goal tonight. And as I said, David, if it was you, it means doing more aesthetic dentistry, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So whatever it is that you love to do, I want you, dentists differ in their interests in dentistry. I remember asking you one time, David, you gave me the best definition of endo that I've ever heard. I don't know if you remember that. But I asked you, I said, David, do you do much endo? And he said, no, I don't really like it. He said, to me, it's kind of like picking locks in the dark.
Picking locks in the dark.
I love that definition.
It's like, I found another number. I'm almost in. Yeah. It's like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah. But for an artist like yourself, an aesthetic dentist, that wouldn't, picking locks in the dark isn't much fun. But there's other dentists that really like doing endo. Good for them. So whatever that is. So I want to give everyone a powerful definition of success. And this comes from this fellow right here. Now, David will know who that is, but some of our listeners and viewers tonight might not. David, who is that?
That's John Wooden.
That's Coach John Wooden, the late legendary coach of UCLA. This is John Wooden's definition of success. Success is the peace of mind that's a direct result of the self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best you're capable of becoming. Isn't that a cool definition? And according to that definition, Steve, can I put you on the spot?
Bring it on.
According to that definition, there's only one person that can tell you whether you're successful or not.
Mm-hmm.
Who would that be? That'd be you. That'd be yourself.
Can you tell me too?
That's right. But I love that definition. Coach Wood never talked about winning games, basketball games, but he sure won his share. Just in case you don't know much about Coach Wood, he won 10 NCAA championships, 7 in a row at one time. By the way, if a basketball coach wins one NCAA championship, they're deified. He won 10. He had a 88-game win streak at one time that spanned over 4 seasons of college basketball, 4 seasons, 88-game win streak. He never talked to his team members about winning, never talked to them about winning. All he did was talk to them about doing their best. And if they did their best, guess what happened? They ended up winning a lot. Well, there are some very technical dentists on tonight's webinar that say this is a great definition, but can you be more specific with me? Can you give me a checklist, Gary? So I'm going to give those dentists that like the details a more specific definition of success. And let me do that with this little checklist right here. I'm going to give you all 6 goals for a thriving practice in 2022 and beyond. I'm going to number them 1 through 6, but they're not numbered in importance. They're simply numbered so I can remember to cover all of them. All right, number 1, overhead no higher than 60%, ideally 50%. Overhead is all the necessary expenses to run your practice with the exception of owner-doctor compensation. And 50% is still possible today. It's very, 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 very rare in general practice. It is possible, but it's very rare. But I can confidently say that anybody on this webinar tonight can get their overhead to 60% or less. And how do I know that? We've done this in practices all over the country. Number 2, I want you to have enough income from your practice so that you can achieve financial independence. My definition of financial independence is when you can go to work because you want to, not because you have to. Go to work because you want to, not because you have to. Number 3, I want you to have all the technology that makes dentistry fun for you, more effective for your patients, and still control overhead at 60% or less. So we just made it a lot more difficult, didn't we? We want you to have all the toys, but still have your overhead at 60% or less. Now I'm going to go to the softer side of these analytics. Number 4, a high performance team you truly love and enjoy working with. By the way, I crafted that statement. I did say love. I didn't say like. I didn't say tolerate. I didn't say put up with. I didn't say, you should have seen the last one. She's better than her. I really want you to have a team you love and enjoy working with. Number 5, patients you enjoy taking care of. You don't have to love your patients, but hope you enjoy taking care of them. I hope you don't have any patients that cause you to lose heart muscle and stomach line. And finally, number 6, treatment mix that gives you satisfaction, whatever that is. David, as you look at that list, and you can imagine someone watching this and seeing that, would you think that the achievement of those 6 goals would define a successful practice?
I would think so. I think in a cosmetic practice, overhead at 60% is difficult.
Well, it is, because you're paying significant lab fees for quality lab work. For sure.
Other than that, absolutely.
Yeah, that might be a little bit tough. I always ask live audience, which of those, so Steve, let me ask you, will you role play as if you're my live audience?
Bring it on.
It's a very subjective question. I'm going to ask you, which of these 6 do you think is most important? I could argue that each one is. I could be like the debate team in college, debating where each one is most important. But as you look at that, you have a great perspective on dentistry. Which of those 6 do you think is most important? And any answer is right. So pressure's off.
My personal, like where I'm at in my life, I'm 33 years old. I'm in a place where the second one is like, for me, just like coming to fruition. So that one's like really speaks to me, because I think it really helps change your mindset. Once you you don't have to necessarily work just for money, and it can be more for enjoyment. Then it helps your mindset be far more like expansive and abundant. And I think
it's truly a freedom. It's freedom, isn't it?
And then you can like, I think you can love your team members and like kind of see them for who they are a little better. So I don't know. I think that's the one that I'm drawn to right now.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly second that motion. I like number 4, because I think if a dentist doesn't have a high performance team they truly love and enjoy working with, I don't think they're going to get the other 5.
Mm-hmm.
Dentistry is a team sport. And I don't think you're going to, and if you could get that without having number 4, if you could achieve the other 5 goals without having a team to love and enjoy working with, it's kind of an empty situation, because you're working with people you don't love. So I happen to think that one's important. Which one is the hardest is actually easier for me to answer. It would be door number 1. Door number 1, especially today. Especially now, talk about real time. We're experiencing double-digit inflation, rising costs, rising wage costs that are just going through the roof. That's getting very, very difficult these days. But the good news is we'll show you how to make that work, even in the current economic conditions that we're in. So newsflash, the current dental insurance system is broken. Newsflash. Oh, wait, I think we already knew that. There are 4 entities involved in dental insurance today. Here are those 4 entities. The dental insurance company that provides a policy, the dentist that provides the care, the patient that receives the care, and then the company that buys the policy, the employer that buys the policy. Those are the 4 entities. Now, if you look at those entities, there's only one winner today. Only one winner, and that would be the dental insurance company. Everybody else loses. The patient loses because he or she is forced to accept a deeply discounted fee schedule to participate with the insurance. The patient loses because of all the games the insurance company plays. Heaven forbid your good patient would come in 5 months and 29 days after their last hygiene appointment, because they're going to get denied because they didn't have the 6-month wait. The employer loses because they are quite literally getting gouged for premiums. Absolutely gouged. I'm going to prove that in a slide in just a minute. 2 more slides, I'm going to prove that. But it's a broken system. It's a broken system. We got 1 winner, 3 losers. It's time for this lopsided, one-sided system to go away. Dental insurance was started in 1968 in California, Delta Dental. It was started by dentists for dentists. It actually had some very noble beginnings. It was very noble. It was very high-minded in terms of helping get more people to visit the dentist and so on. Well, what happened since then? Well, I'll show you what happened. All right. We'll have some fun for a minute. This is how I feel when I see in-network PPO fee schedules. Steve, does that make you want to rub your left eye as you take a look at that slide?
No, not at all. That makes my mind burn.
That's how I feel when I see in-network fee schedules. By the way, I want to give credit to that slide that was created by a dentist that you and I know, David, Brian Baliwas. Brian is a young dentist in San Francisco. By the way, he's a 2014 graduate of University of Pacific School of Dentistry in San Francisco. He started a scratch fee-for-service practice in downtown San Francisco in 2015. David, what do you think his colleagues said to him when he would, meet his colleagues, at dental society meetings, and they say, "Hey, what are you doing, Dr. Baliwas?" And he said, "Well, I'm starting a scratch fee-for-service practice in downtown San Francisco." What do you think his colleagues said?
Not possible.
You can't do that. Well, little did they know that Brian has a very strong temperament, and the more people told him it couldn't be done, the more it emboldened him to do it. And he did just that. He started a scratch fee-for-service practice. And David, can we agree that downtown San Francisco has a few dentists?
A little bit.
Most of them are in 450 Sutter.
I had a part-time aesthetic practice at 450 Sutter.
Yeah.
There was 250 dentists in that one building.
One building.
And then 190 Post had another 190 dentists, and that was a block and a half away. Yeah, I mean, crazy.
So you're looking at
dental sales people. The Patterson rep said, I asked her, "How do you work this building?" And she says, "Takes me 2 weeks." So she just parks and she doesn't have to go from office to office, in different neighborhoods like they would in San Diego. So she just works the building, starts at the bottom, goes up the top, comes back a week later.
Wow. Yeah. And here's Brian doing a fee-for-service. By the way, he attracted over 1,000 patients in less than 2 years using nothing more than an Instagram account. Hey, Steve, would you put in chat his Instagram link?
Sure.
His Instagram link is at SF Dental Nerd. At SF Dental Nerd. That's his Instagram link. I would encourage all of you to follow it. It's actually a patient-facing Instagram account. Patient-facing. It's not, certainly you're welcome as a dentist to hang out his Instagram account, but it's designed for patients. And he posts things like this slide that I have up there on the screen. He posts that for his patients. Very interesting. All right. Remember I said where insurance companies are gouging employers? I'm going to prove that right now with this slide. This ought to evoke some emotion. Let's take a look and see if it does. Here's health insurance company CEOs' total annual salary in 2018. The most recent year I have information. By the way, this is public domain information. The insurance companies don't want you to have this information. You're welcome to take a photo of that slide and post it anywhere you like. Post it everywhere you like. Let's take a look. Let's break this down a little bit. Well, why is this Humana guy smiling? Well, he's got 27.2 million reasons a year to smile. Look at this guy over here, Steve. This guy's pissed off. He's angry because he thinks he's better than him, but he's only making 21.5 million. This guy over here, the Centene guy, he's trying to go incognito. He's trying to slide off the screen. I'm not really here. I'm not here. I'm leaving. And then this guy over here at Cigna saying, "No, you can't. You get back over here. Get back over here." This guy's a slacker. Steve, come on. $8.3 million? That's not even worth getting up in the morning.
Up change.
He is a piker. Now, this guy, the only way I can explain him, his dad has to be the chairman of the board. It doesn't look like that guy can make his own breakfast, let alone run an insurance company. Now, it gets worse. It gets worse. See this guy over here on Cigna? But Steve, how do you think Cigna did as a company in terms of profits in 2020, in the year 2020? How do you think a dental insurance company did during 2020?
Massively well. They had several months where there were no insurance claims being submitted. They're still collecting premiums like they had to. And
by the way, no refunds back to the companies. They had anywhere from 7 to 16 weeks, depending on where they were in the country with the states, where dental offices were closed. Very little. There was some emergency dentistry being done, but very, very, infinitesimally small amount compared to normal. And they made obscene profits. So his board in 21 gave him a raise. Because, when the executive team makes profits, more profits for the insurance company, the board often awards raises. And so they gave a raise to, wait for it, $67 million. So 19.2 to 67 million. And at the end of 2021, they announced that during 2022, Cigna's cut all PPO fees by 15%. For already low fees are going to be cut an additional 15%. Anyone else feeling their blood pressure rise a little bit about that? Now, I'm a capitalist. Steve, you're a capitalist. David, you're a capitalist. But I happen to think we're beneficial capitalists. We believe in capitalism that benefits others. This capitalism isn't benefiting others. It's benefiting the executive team, and that's it. It's time for this lopsided system to go. All right. So here's an important insight. From this moment forward, I want you to think of your PPO adjustments. That's the difference between your usual fee and a contracted fee. I want you to think of that as a marketing expense. Why? Because you're paying the insurance company to provide you patients. Now, your accountant will never call this a marketing expense because you don't actually write a check to Delta. It's even worse because Delta just takes it out in the beginning before you ever got it. But I want you to think of that as a marketing expense. You're paying the insurance company to provide you patients. Now, does it make any sense for you to pay the insurance company 45 to 50% of your fees? That's the average adjustment today in 2022. 40 to 50% to provide you with patients. So in other words, if you had a service that was $1,000 and a fee-for-service patient would pay $1,000, if that patient is a PPO patient, you're a PPO provider, you're going to get, I'll use the 45%, you're going to get $550 instead of $1,000. Does that make any sense? No. Not at all. You could pay a small fraction of that amount and develop a comprehensive marketing plan to attract patients to your practice. So not only would you save money, save a massive amount of money, but you'll get the added benefit of patients coming to your practice who do not have an insurance mindset. Now, Steve, is it possible to get a good patient, say from Delta or Aetna or Travelers or Blue Cross Blue Shield? Sure. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. You bet. But very often they arrive with baggage. And the baggage that I'm referring to is an insurance mindset, meaning I only want to have that done if it's covered by insurance. Right? I only want to have it done because it's almost like they're degrading you. Doc, I only want it done if I don't care how much education you have. I don't care how much investment you've made in technology. I only want to have it done if it's free. It's not actually free, but that's how they see it. And one of the more insidious things is the way PPO plans can set your fees on services that aren't covered. David, like veneers. Why in the world should any insurance company, where they have a clause that they don't have to pay for what are considered aesthetic dentistry, why in the world should they be able to set your veneer fee if they pay nothing on veneers? I don't know. I feel like I want to get on my soapbox about that. What do you think? How do you feel about that, David?
Makes no sense.
You know, and if you're a contractor provider, you've got to charge your approved veneer fee. And it just doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense. And one of the reasons why I was excited about doing this webinar, if you're a follower of David, I know that one of the things you'd like to do is perhaps build the cosmetic component of your practice. And I actually think being a PPO provider works against you in that goal to develop the aesthetic component of your practice. It works against you. It's diametrically opposed to what you're trying to accomplish. By the way, I know Steve mentioned this, but I'll mention it now. You're welcome to type in any questions to the Q&A. Please.
Not Q&A, chat.
I'm sorry, in chat. Thank you. I'm sorry, in chat. Thank you, David. Write those questions in chat. There's no silly questions. The only silly question is the one you don't ask. So in my experience, I've helped a few hundred practices successfully resign from PPO plans. By the way, our practice, the one that Paul and I bought, we knew it was a PPO practice. But we didn't know exactly how infected it was of PPO plans. And we quickly discovered that we were contracted with 34 PPO plans. I didn't know there were 34. And that's what we inherited. And we just couldn't get it to work. We tried. We couldn't get it to work. We had a vision. The vision of our practice was to take care of patients the way we'd like to be taken care of, clinically and behaviorally. We had one standard of care. Paul wasn't going to have multiple standards of care. I wasn't going to accept multiple standards of care. We had one standard of care, and that's what we would want on our own mouth. And we couldn't get them to work, so we started resigning. Since then, I've done this a few hundred times as a coach with practices all over the country. And we've developed a 6-step plan to successfully reduce insurance dependence. By the way, I call it reducing insurance dependence as opposed to going fee for service. Because success doesn't necessarily mean you have to go all the way to fee for service. In other words, success could be measured by starting out with 15 or 16 plans and maybe getting down 1 or 2. And maybe you have so much success as you've dropped those 4 plans that it emboldens you to end up dropping the last 2. If your goal is to become fee for service, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader because I think that is the best outcome. But there could be situations in a given practice, a given community, where you may choose to hang on to a plan for one reason or another. That's why I call it reducing insurance dependence as opposed to going fee for service. Here's the 6, and I'm going to go over all this in detail tonight. Step 1, know your data. I'll go through all this with you, but I just want to give you the overview on this slide. Step 2, develop a comprehensive digital marketing plan. You have to replace patients you might lose when you go out of network. Number 3, a little bit of a granular detail. Create an in-office membership plan. Step 4, get your team 100% supportive of your plan. Dentistry is a team sport. We need the team supported. We need a common voice coming out, not only from you, but from each one of your team members, communicating with your patients. Number 5, we need to elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. What does it mean to have a relationship-driven practice? That's where we know our patients' names, their spouses' names, their kids' names, their dog's name, their hobbies, their interests. Maybe we know that Linda's taking care of an elderly mother right now. We know what college they went to. We know what their faith is. We know what their values are, what's important to them. That's what makes dentistry so rich. And finally, number 6, one of the ways you can reduce your insurance dependence is add services not covered by insurance. People will often pay for what they want before they'll pay for what they need. And now you have to pick these services. There's no generic blueprint to follow on that, because you have to pick what it is you like to do. Whatever that is, you want to do more of it. Add services to your practice that aren't covered by insurance. That's a 6-step plan. Think of that plan literally as your blueprint to follow to successfully resign from PPO plans. When we do this, we want to remain patient-friendly. You're still going to file insurance claims for your patients. You're still going to submit all the documentation. You're still going to follow up with the insurance company because sometimes the insurance company doesn't do what they're supposed to do. You're going to be your patient's advocate to help them get every dollar of benefit. Whatever benefits they have, they can still use in your practice. They can still come to you. They can use whatever benefits they have. They can use them in your practice. And we're going to do this in a very patient-friendly way. The goal is to keep as many of your existing in-network patients as possible when you do this. Does that make sense? Now, you're going to lose patients. I would love to be able to tell you I've done this in practices and not lost a single patient, but that wouldn't be true. That's never happened. So I think I can confidently say, hey, when you're going to do this, you're going to lose some patients. But what I hear every time that I do a debrief with the client as we've gone through this afterwards, and we look at the data, every time they say, Gary, I lost way fewer patients than I thought. I thought I'd lose a lot more. And I've lost way less than I thought. We've done this in every locational environment that's possible. Urban practices, suburban practices, large town, medium-sized town, small town, rural, remote, company towns. What's some examples of company town? Houston, I think of as a company town. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago. Seattle is maybe the most obvious example of a company town. There's many employers in Seattle, but the employer landscape is dominated by 4 major employers: Boeing Aircraft, Microsoft, Amazon, and Starbucks. Now, certainly there's other employers, but the employment landscape is dominated by, and all 4 of them provide PPO plans to their employees. And so there's dentists in Seattle that think, oh, I could never do it here. And yet we've got clients all over the I-5 corridor, in and around Seattle, that have done this very successfully.
Hey, Gary, let me interrupt you because a question did come up.
Please.
So, a dentist had asked, so many of your patients, one of the first questions they ask when your receptionist or your front desk person answers the phone, are you in network, right? What do you teach your teams to say, to respond to that?
Great question. Now, what we usually hear, the variation of that question is, do you take my insurance? But I like the way it was phrased there because it was a more specific phrasing. Are you in network? So this is what we do. And without training, let's say you're a fee-for-service practice, and let's say your team members have not had any training on this, and the call comes into them, are you in network? Without training, most team members say, we're actually not in network with any plans. Clunk. That's what happens. That would happen. And you're not going to do that. We're not going to do it. So here's what I teach. One first say something like this. First of all, I'm so glad you called. My name is Carly. That's one of the team members at Life Smiles. My name is Carly. We love to see new patients at Life Smiles. I'm glad you called. Who am I speaking with? David, great to meet you by phone. I look forward to meeting you face to face. Let me answer your question. Although we are not in network with Delta Dental, you can absolutely use those benefits in our practice. David, not only can you use those benefits, but when you come in, you're going to meet Meg. She's our insurance coordinator. She's going to submit your claims. She's going to submit all the documentation. She's going to do the follow-up with Delta. Her job is to help you get every nickel of benefit you have from Delta Dental. Now, if this was true, as it would be, David, we have many patients who have the very same insurance that you have. Would you like a morning or afternoon appointment? So that's the verbal skills on that. And let me make one clarification. Are there any plans out there that do not pay out-of-network benefits? The answer is yes. But statistically, it's a fraction of 1%. Those are called closed panel plans. And they don't pay any out-of-network benefits. The largest one and the most obvious one, which most of us don't have anything to do with, is Medicaid. Medicaid is a closed panel plan. If a patient has Medicaid and you're not a Medicaid provider, Medicaid will not pay any benefits to the providers. It's a closed panel. Now, but that is a fraction of 1%. When I say you can use your benefits here, that's an accurate statement 99.9% of the time. Now, there are occasionally a stray plan that is a closed panel plan, and we're going to want to know about if any of those in your area. I bumped into one recently in St. Pete, Florida, or actually it was Tampa, and it was a very outlier plan for a school district. But we learned that it is a closed panel and they don't pay any out-of-network benefits. Well, we can't use that. The verbal skills that I used for your example, David, we can't use that in that case.
Yeah, and I've been fee-for-service now since '95, so I kind of forgot even what it's like, right? But, friends of mine that have attempted this and been successful, and some, like you said, struggled. People aren't used to paying for a service, right? I mean, we've been spoiled by the physicians. I have medical insurance. I go and I say, are you sure you don't want me to pay something today? It's like, no, that's fine. We'll bill your insurance, and then whatever they pay, we'll bill you. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And, even with the verbiage that you use, that's still a little bit of a struggle, right? Because they're not used to giving you money. And so let's go back to the role playing that we just played. And I said, okay, cool. And so you tell me how much it's going to be. And I go and I get my teeth cleaned and I get my x-rays and I come up and you say, it's $250. Your insurance is going to obviously pay some of this and you have a good insurance. I'd say, okay, great. Just send me a bill once you get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would say, right?
Yeah. Sure. And by the way, I love this, David, because this is real world. This is what happens.
Medicine has screwed us over, right? Really, because we're just so used to either giving $5 or $25 deductible, or for them just to say, I went to a dermatologist the other day. I say, honestly, this is what happened. I said, are you sure you don't want like something today? And they said, no, we'll just figure it out and we'll send you a bill. And, and I'm expecting this bill in a month and a half. And honestly, because I'm not the guy that's going to go and call the medical insurance and say, how much are you going to cover? It's like, it could be a surprise. It could be $0 or it could be $250. I don't know. Yeah. Right. It's like this surprise at the end of the month, but I'm used to that.
David, I had the same thing happen really with primary care. I did an annual physical, and as I'm leaving, I said, I'd be happy to take care of that today. Oh no, we'll just send you a bill. Well, really, I'd be happy to, I work in healthcare. I know it's kind of a pain to send statements. So I'll be happy to take care. No, we'll just send you a bill. I couldn't pay. Yeah. So let me respond to that, David.
Let me add to that too, because it'll probably be part of your response. Someone asked, do you take assignment from the insurance, or does payment always go to the patient? I mean, I know what I do in my practice. The patient gets paid and I get paid from the patient, right?
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when you go out of network, and we did this with 34 plans, I was surprised to see how many plans will still allow you to assign benefits to the practice, even though you're out of network. Well, in other words, many insurance companies will continue to send checks to you. Now, if that's the case, then all we do is collect the copayment at time of service. And I'm happy to wait for the check from the insurance company, which happens very fast these days. But I was surprised how many plans will continue to allow you to assign benefits to you. Now, Delta will never do that. Delta sends the check to the patient. And they do that to antagonize. And so to encourage people to go to in-network, patients to go to in-network providers. So Delta will always send the check to the patient. So how do you handle that when, patients have traditionally not had to pay anything for a hygiene visit? Now they've got to pay. And can we agree on something? The patient it's not popular to ask the patient to pay at time of service when they haven't been accustomed to doing it. That's not going to be a hit parade for them. So here's, again, the verbal skills on that. David, since we're no longer contracted with Delta, from now on, they send the check to you. You're going to get a check from Delta. Remember, this would be the first time after we're out of network. In the past, they used to send us the check. Now they send it to you. David, because they send you the check directly, we ask our patients to take care of payment at time of service. David, what most of our patients do is they put it on a credit or debit card. We're going to file the claim with Delta today. It'll be in their hands today. You should get a check from Delta very quickly, well before your statement's even due, so it's not even like you're going out of pocket. And David, now watch what I do here. So let me step out of role playing for a minute. Watch what I do here. I'm going to throw a jab at Delta intentionally. David, if you don't have a check from Delta in, let's say, 2 weeks, march into your benefit supervisor at work and let your benefit supervisor know that, because they can exert pressure on Delta because it means Delta's hanging on to your check. Now, I'd love to tell you that works 100% of the time, and it doesn't. But often it does because of the way we phrase that to them. Now, we've never known a patient needing to go to their benefit supervisor and complain, because this probably won't come as a surprise to you. David, Delta will pay the patient very quickly. Now, don't think for a minute Delta cares about the patient. They don't. Remember, Delta hopes the patient never goes to the dentist, because if they never go to the dentist, Delta's not going to have to pay any claims. So Delta really hopes the patient never goes to the dentist. But they don't care about the patient. But who do they care about? They care about the employer, because it's the employer that's paying the insurance company. And they know the way to employers' happiness is to keep the employees happy. So we always throw that jab at them. Well, Delta, if you don't have a check within a couple of weeks, let your benefit supervisor know at work so they can exert some pressure on them, because they're hanging on to your money. Now, can I make exceptions? If we have a larger family in the practice, can we make exceptions for a good family that's always been faithful and loyal and good? They attend their appointments, they pay their bills. Can I make an exception for them? You bet I can. If we have a long-standing loyal patient, she says, can I just bring in the check when I get it from Delta and I'll sign it over to you? Can I do, Steve, I'll put you on the spot. Loyal patient, the kind of patient that brings in bakery, during December to say thanks. They don't even have an appointment. They bring in bakery. Can I make an exception for her?
No, right?
Steve's tough. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say sure. Linda, we wouldn't normally do that. The accountant has a fit. But you know what? I'm happy to make an exception for a good patient like you. You bet. But she's earned it.
This is why I should be a CFO.
See, you're the bad cop. Yeah, the good cop and the bad cop. You're the CFO, right? You're watching every nickel.
My penny pinch is coming out tonight.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. But what we found is that, for a hygiene appointment, yeah, it might be $250 when we count, the hygiene appointment, exam, whatever necessary radiographs we did. But in most cases, people will put it on a debit or credit card, and they get reimbursed very quickly from Delta, and it really hasn't been a problem. But if they will assign the benefits to you, then I'm happy to figure out the copayment and collect that at time of service, and then wait, which we're not really waiting. Everything's done electronically now. We're getting paid quicker from the insurance companies, than we ever have. All right, let me keep rolling. Thank you, David, for that question, and thank you guys for typing those in. Step 1, know your data. What does that mean? Know your data. I want you to create a simple spreadsheet with simply 3 columns, very simple. But this is going to be very useful as we plan the order in which we're going to resign from your plans. So the spreadsheet has 3 columns in it. First column is the name of the PPO plan. The second column is the number of active patients on that plan. And active is defined as having visited your office in the last 18 months. Steve, is that consistent with your definition at Dental Intelligence as an active patient?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. I think 24 months is too loose. 12 is too tight. I think, Goldilocks and 3 bears. 18 is right on the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And third column is the advance notice required to resign from the PPO plan. That'll be 30, 60, or 90 days. So I want to know, like in the first column, it might be travelers. You might have 200 active patients on travelers. You can get that all from your practice management software. Actually, Dental Intel could grab all of that for us in no time. Except the third one. The third one might take a little bit of research. By the way, where do you get the third piece of information? What is the advance notice required to resign? It's called a notification period. It's in the contract, but don't bother reading your PPO contract because it'll be on page 283 in little tiny 6-point print. Have your office manager call the insurance company and be transparent. Just say, we're considering resigning. We want to know how much notice we're required to resign. They are required to tell you. And it'll be 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. All that information goes in the spreadsheet, and we use that information to determine the order in which we're going to resign. We typically like to start with a small plan with a smaller number of patients so that we can have a dress rehearsal before opening night. You don't want to start with Delta. First plan we dropped at my Life Smiles practice was a stray plan that had 22 patients. Now, we didn't want to lose any of them, but I told my team, hey, if we fall flat on our face and we lose all 22 of them, it's not a crisis. We'll be fine. By the way, we didn't lose any, and that became positive momentum as we built and went forward.
Hey, Gary, when you do charge for the copay, someone asked, how do you accurately know what that copay is going to be? If you're not networked, you don't really know what.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's tough because you don't know. Now, and they won't tell you. You can't call Delta and say, once we go out of network, what is the copay? They won't tell you that. So what you need to do is collect EOBs from your patients. So if the check goes to the patient, they'll also get the EOB. Now, you don't ask every patient to send you their EOB because that would be inappropriate with every patient. But I'm sure, David, you could think of good patients in the practice, maybe even as a family member of a team member, someone that's more of an insider in the practice. Hey, George, you're going to get an EOB from Delta. They won't share that with us anymore. Would you mind sharing that EOB with us? That'll help us be able to help other patients. Would you mind sharing that with us? And all we have to do is collect EOBs for a short period of time to see what that number is. Like, for example, I've done this recently in a practice, and a particular plan, the copayment for a routine adult hygiene appointment was $22, the new copayment. Before it was nothing, and now it's $22. That was a better plan. And we love being able to say, now that we're out of network, we know that your portion is going to be $22. Now, I'm not saying $22 is nothing, but what most patients have said in that practice is, let's see, I go twice a year, $22 a visit, that's $44. That's kind of like Starbucks money. I'm not going anywhere else. That's the kind of reaction we get. But basically the answer to that question, David, is you got to collect EOBs so you can give that information accurately. Now, here's what might surprise you, David. When we went out of network with 34 plans, 24 paid us more, paid the patient more than when we went out of network. Now that makes no sense, does it? Why would that happen? Here's why. Many dental offices don't know what the maximal allowable fee is that the insurance company will pay. If you submit your fee and it's over, they'll tell you your fees are too high, submit a new fee schedule. But they won't tell you, Dr. Steve, your crown fee is too low. We'd actually pay another $300 and raise your crown fee another $300. They won't tell you that. So many offices are below the radar on what they're actually charging. And then when you go out of network, they pay the maximal allowable to the patient. And so in many cases, there's not much of a difference. Steve, does that make any sense?
No, it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. If I hear what you're saying. It's crazy.
Yeah. Again, dental intel can be very useful in this process in so many ways. I know we're probably preaching to the choir. I hope all of our attendees are dental intelligence members. If they're not, they should do a demo and get on dental intel immediately. There's so much information in that dashboard.
Yeah, the one thing I'd add, to these three things that we can do with dental intel is we can actually show them by each insurance plan, one, how many patients are there, but we can also add what's the annual patient value for each one of those contracted plans. You can understand, okay, if you don't know which reimbursement rates are best, you probably have a gut idea of that, but then we can actually see numbers, right? Like what is our average reimbursement per patient on that plan? And that's pretty easy for us to knock out for you. So.
There's a possibility that when you look at that data that you just mentioned, Steve, the annual benefit, and maybe they have a better fee schedule, you might think, you know what, I can live with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Those patients respond to our recommendations. I can live with that. Recently, I had a client in Walnut Creek. Of course, you guys know where Walnut Creek is in the Bay Area. And last one to resign from was Delta Premier. And he resigned from Premier, or he went to resign. And Delta told him, hey, if we could come up with a custom fee schedule for you, would you consider staying? And I had coached him. I said, they might say, don't expect that, but they might come back to you and they might not want to lose you. And they might say, hey, if we could come up with a better fee schedule, would you stay? And I said, if they do that, say, hey, I'll take a look at it. No commitment, but I'll take a look at it. Well, they came back and they offered him a custom fee schedule that was a 15% discount off of his usual and customary fee. I was blown away. I have no idea why they did that, because they don't need more dentists in Walnut Creek. They do not. It's saturated. I mean, why would Delta would do this if they needed providers in your area? They didn't need them there. The only thing I can think of is he must have fit some obscure profile for Delta based on the mix of services and such, that he was their ideal client and they didn't want to lose him. And so he came back to me and said, Gary, they've offered me a 15% discount. And I said to him, I hope this doesn't sound contrary, because you know how I feel about Delta. They're the 5,000 pound bully. But I said, you know what? I can live with a 15% discount. I can live with that. And he said, well, I'm kind of glad you said that. That's what I was thinking. But I said, now be careful, because over time, right now it's 15% difference. But over time, as you raise your fees and Delta doesn't raise theirs, that gap will widen and it might become unviable. But right now, 15%, I'd do that. I'd stay. All right, step 2, develop a comprehensive marketing plan. It's critical that you develop your comprehensive marketing plan early in your journey to drop PPO plans so that you can proactively replace any patients you might lose when you go out of network. What we typically see when you've followed all the steps and you're really firing on all cylinders, you'll lose 10 to 15% of your in-network patients. 10 to 15. The best I've ever seen was an office that lost 7%. 7. Now, this allows you to be in a position of strength when you do this, because now you've already replaced them before you lost them. And so you're in a position of strength. You also have to replace the flow of new patients that have historically come in from a PPO plan. So let me use an example. Let's say it's travelers. You have 200 patients on travelers. And let's use the 15% number to be conservative. Let's say you're going to lose 15% of them. So that means you're going to lose 30 patients. But let's say travelers has been providing you 5 new patients a month. The day you resign, that spigot gets turned off and you don't get that flow anymore because you're no longer listed as a provider on travelers. So 5 a month annualized be another 60 a year. So basically your exercise in that first year is to replace the 30 you're going to lose that are existing patients are going to go out, you're going to leave your practice, plus the 60. So we're going to lose 90. So we have to replace 90 new patients. It kind of makes it very analytical. What's successful dental marketing in 2022? It's about two details. Number one, it's about helping your ideal patients find you. They can't find you. They can't choose you if they don't find you. They have to find you. And number two, it's about giving them a reason to choose you. You really have to have both of these in play to fully maximize your marketing. Helping them find you, and then give them a reason to choose you. And that's really what successful marketing is, plain and simple. It's all about Google today. It's all about Google. It's all about organic search engine optimization through Google. What does organic search engine optimization means? It means that when a potential patient types in a term, a word, a phrase, looking for a dentist in your community, you show up on page 1. Now, David, you're in San Diego. It's not easy to get on page 1 in San Diego. It's also not easy to get in page 1 in Phoenix. I've got 1,400 dentists that have a Phoenix address. And typically, there are 10 practices that show up organically on a search page. Well, let me qualify that. It depends what kind of device they're searching from. If they're searching from a smartphone or a tablet, which represents over 60% of the searches for a dentist, only 10 practices will be listed because of the limited screen size. Only 10 practices will be listed on page 1. If they're searching from a desktop, 15. So 50% more practices will be located. But in Phoenix, if I've got 1,400, I've got to be in the top 10 of 1,400 dental practices. Yours is very similar in San Diego, David.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, I know for a fact that if someone types in cosmetic dentistry, aesthetic dentistry, improve my smile, very strong likelihood you're going to show up on page 1. Is that accurate?
Maybe. I hope so.
I was being optimistic.
Yeah.
It's all about Google today. What's the number 1 search engine in the world? Google. Steve, what's the number 2 search engine in the world?
Ooh, I actually have Siri.
Who cares? It's literally who cares. But you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Just in case you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I want you to get this one right. The number 2 search engine in the world is, wait for it, YouTube, which is owned by Google. You're right back to Google. It's all about Google. So here's critical facts to know about your website. 82% of the visitors to a dental website will be a female. And she has a name, a title in the family. And her title is Mom. Mom's looking for a dentist for herself, for her spouse, for her sister, her mother, her coworker. 90% of all web pages get 0 organic traffic from Google. 90% of dental websites get 0 traffic. And that's intentional from Google, because if you get 0 traffic, how do you get Google's attention? You got to buy ads. You got to pay them. That's why they do that. It's intentional. Only 4% of the dental websites get 95% of the organic traffic. Organic means I'm not paying Google. I'm earning my ranking on page 1. I'm not paying pay-per-click or paid ads. 4% of websites get 95% of the organic traffic. Your goal is to be in that 4%. Now, very important detail. Google will penalize you if you have duplicate website content. Duplicate website is just what it sounds like. It's the same content on your site and it's on another website somewhere on the World Wide Web. And where does it come from? Well, duplicate content can come from a lot of places, but there's 2 predominant places that duplicate content comes from. One would be the company that wrote your website uses a template format. They might give you a zip code exclusive, but they'll say, well, other dentists around, outside your zip code might have some of the same content. And that's how it happens. Another way it happens is a bit more unscrupulous. Dentists will troll the internet, will find a website they like and cut and paste the content and put it on theirs. And Google penalizes both the perpetrator and the victim in that one. Both of them get penalized. And so you always have to make sure your website doesn't have duplicate content, because if it does, you will not get it on page 1. And David, I might suggest that in your practice, because you've got a fairly high profile, that's probably happening on a regular basis. It happens on my website all the time. Not weekly, but multiple times a month it's happening in my practice, and my website company cleans it up. All they do, they have a program they can run every page through. It's called Copyscape, and they run every page through it, and it shows up as a highlighted passage if it's duplicate, if it's somewhere else. And they simply rewrite it. If they simply rewrite and then rewrite it, then it's back to original content, and I'm back in Google's good graces. But I'll bet that happens a lot on your website, David, unbeknownst to you, because someone looks and says, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm going to make that on my website, and they steal your
the photo is the worst.
Yeah, don't get me started. Yeah. All right, let's get into details. How do you dominate Google? Getting on page 1 means dominating Google, and get people to find you organically. We're not paying Google. You're earning the ranking. By the way, I dare anyone to call Google and say, would you please share your ranking algorithm with us? Because that'll be a very short conversation. First of all, find a phone number to call Google. Go ahead. I dare you. You can't. They won't tell you what the ranking algorithm is. However, Google does tell you what their protocols are. And you can simply follow their protocols and be very compliant to Google, and all that's going to help you get on page 1. So NAP, I'm going to get nerdy here for a minute. NAP is an acronym that Google uses. It stands for name, address, phone. The way your practice is represented in the various directories on the website has a lot to do with whether you get on page 1 or not. A name, address, phone refers to the way your practice is named, the way the address is, and the way the phone appears. Address is down to punctuation. My practice is on Shea Boulevard, BLVD. Now, you could write out Boulevard, spell it out. You could abbreviate it, BLVD, or you could abbreviate with a period, BLVD period. It doesn't matter how you do it. All that matters is how it's done consistently. If it's done consistently, you're going to earn ranking points with Google. It's really nerdy, but it's very important. So it's called NAP consistency. And my marketing company constantly looks at all the different directories. By the way, what are examples of directory? Most of these directories have posted information about you without your permission. Like City of San Diego might have a city search where they list all the dentists in San Diego County. And they do that because it simply creates traffic for their main website. They know that someone's looking for a dentist, and they go to city search, and it shows up as traffic on their website. So, David, there's information published about your practice on all kinds of different directories. And the more that it's listed consistently, the better Google juice you're going to get. Website optimization, site load speeds, whether the information is formatted correctly in the coding of your website, whether it's a secure website. Many dental offices are not secure website. So all those, Google publishes what their optimization tips are. So you follow those optimization tips, then you make your website fully optimized. Also, is it mobile optimized? Is your website mobile optimized? Knowing that more than 60% of people are searching for a dentist from a mobile device. And your score on mobile website optimization will affect your ranking. Another one, Google has an acronym called Google EAT. EAT is an acronym that stands for expertise, authority, and trust. The way your content is written on the website, if it's compliant to their EAT guidelines, expertise, authority, and trust, you're more likely to have a higher score. Unique website content, I talked about that earlier. It's got to be unique, can't be copied. And through maximizing SEO keywords and key phrases. I'm going to show you my actual Google Analytics from LifeSmiles from April. I don't have it for May yet, but I'll show you from April. I'll show that in just a minute. You want to have the most number of keywords, phrases. And David, in your case, you want to have every keyword and phrase for every different way someone can say smile design, the public. Now, you and I use the term smile design, but the public doesn't necessarily use that term. Correct?
Right.
What might a layperson type in if they're looking for a cosmetic dentist? What might not anyone in our profession, but what might a layperson type in?
Porcelain veneers, cosmetic dentistry, tooth whitening.
Yeah.
Would be probably the three.
Yeah, very much so. Now, David, one thing you could do is you could go to Google and ask them the 50 most common keywords and phrases that the public uses in San Diego to look for a cosmetic dentist. And Google will give you those 50 keywords and phrases. They'll tell you what they are. And then you just you have them in the copy of your website, but you also have them in the coding of your website. And instantly you'll get better ranking for having those most common keywords. And patients use words that we wouldn't use. Let's say you want to do more crowns. I'll go more into general dentistry for a minute. David, I don't think you and I would ever, or Steve, I don't think any of us would ever use the term cap to describe a crown. Correct? Is that a fair statement? We're not going to do that. But might the public call it a cap?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be bad to be ranked number one when someone types in, dental cap San Diego. Sounds kind of crazy, but and I wouldn't put that in your content. I'd put it in the back coding, So organic means we're not paying for it. You earn it. NAP accuracy comes under the top. It's in the top 5 ranking indicators Google uses to rank your site. NAP accuracy. It's very important to maintain it. NAP consistency. NAP consistency. Name, address, phone. Website optimization. Having a unique, compelling, easy to navigate website that loads quickly for your patient. Allows you to tell your practice story and help people learn about your practice, but also helps you rank in Google. Once you have a great website live, your next step should be to make sure it's optimized for all the different metrics that Google uses. For example, every one of your pages on your website has what's called the Google Lighthouse score. Lighthouse involves 4 criteria for the page, and the score ranks from 0 to 100. If you're in the 90 to 100 category on all 4 of the criteria, then that page is going to have the highest ranking score in Google, and it's going to be more likely to appear on page 1. Google grades a website performance based on real-time data. So if your site isn't optimized, you're going to struggle. Some of the factors that Google uses, crawler errors, mobile usability, site load speeds, is the data structured correctly, the way they like it structured, Google Lighthouse scores, etc. So I told you I'd share some of our data. This comes from April in my practice. This comes from Google Analytics. This is a screenshot that I took of my Google Analytics. Oh, let me back up to that. Sorry, guys. I went back one too far. Let me get back to that slide. All right. So in the month of April, 103,929 was the number of times our website was seen in a Google search. That's a crazy number. Now, most of those are no candidates to be patients of ours. But it's an interesting number to try. I like that number to be around 100,000 every month. The number of unique search terms which brought up my website in Google search, 3,739 search terms. Steve, can you name 3,739 dental search terms?
No, absolutely not.
I think I'm dry after about 50. But this is what it is. The number of profiles, remember I talked about those directory profiles that were NAP compliant. I had 59 of those. 59 of those. Pretty cool. The number of optimized website pages on my website, which rank on page 1 of Google, was 68. We've got over 100 pages on the website. But 68 of them are ranked. The goal is to get all 100. We're working on that, but I'm moving up on that. But this shows you the kind of the nerdy detail that you can look at to learn whether your marketing is working.
So Gary, where do they go? Where would a doctor go to look at this?
So Google Analytics will share that information with you. It's called the Google Analytics report. You get it directly from Google. They'll send it to you. Google will send you that. It's called the Google Analytics report. And it looks, I did a little screenshot. It's actually bigger than that, but you get the idea of what that looks like. Your marketing company can also provide that for you. In our case, the marketing agency I used provides that as well.
So does mine. Someone asked, and I don't know how to get it. My marketing company gets it for me.
Yeah. Although I'm not an owner, I'm still involved in the practice. And my oldest daughter, Madi, is our marketing coordinator. And she goes over that every month, that report.
So So what site do you go
to get the report?
Yeah.
See, I actually get it from my marketing agency, so they send it to us.
Okay.
But Google,
You could
that's a good
probably
question. I don't know the
Google.
exact site to go to.
Google how to Google your analytics report.
Boy, we really get it really gets meta if we're Googling Google to find out where the Google Analytics come from. Hey,
Yeah,
Steve,
probably.
I bet there's someone at Dental Intel that you've got some serious nerds at Dental Intel, and those are terms of endearment.
Yes.
I'll guarantee that there is a nerd walking around at Dental Intel that can give us that answer.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure if I went Adam Smith, our VP of marketing, I'm sure he'd know like in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Now let's go to the other side of the equation. How do you get ideal patients to choose you? Because you got to give them a reason to choose you. Well, I'm going to introduce you to someone that you should know, and you'll appreciate knowing. Robert Cialdini. Robert Cialdini is considered the world's foremost excellent expert in the science of influence. This is his New York Times bestseller. It's called Influence. He's written 2 New York Times bestsellers. First one's titled Influence. The second one is titled Pre-Suasion. Pre-Suasion. And what Robert Cialdini did was really understand that there are 6 fundamental principles of influence. And if you can incorporate those 6 fundamentals of principles of influence in your marketing, you're going to attract a lot more new patients. So he's a psychologist, professor in marketing. His 35 years of evidence-based research led him to discover that when 6 principles are at play, people are 3 times more likely to say yes and take action. In recognition for his research and contribution in the world of influence psychology, he's a PhD doctor. Dr. Cialdini is known as the foundational expert in the science of it. This is Robert Cialdini there on the right. He taught at ASU for 35 years. He retired about half a dozen years ago from ASU, and now he runs a consultancy all about influence. He happens to be a neighbor of mine. He lives about 6 blocks from where I'm sitting right now at my home office. I have under really good information that he's about to publish a 3rd book. His executive assistant is one of my wife's yoga students at her yoga studio. And my wife has shared what I do with her. And she said, hey, give Gary a heads up that Dr. Cialdini is about to publish his 3rd book. And my wife's pretty sharp. She said, you think Dr. Cialdini would like to be on Gary's podcast? So we're working on that. We're working on that right now. Anyway, stay tuned. It's pretty interesting stuff. So what is his central thesis? His central thesis is this. There's certain principles of influence. When they're used correctly, they create a moment. And in that moment, people are at least 3 times more likely to act. And the keys for success, therefore, are 2 things. How do you leverage the principle of influence to create the moment? And then how do we leverage that fleeting moment so it doesn't just evaporate? And so here are those 6 fundamental principles of influence. And I'll give examples of this in a minute. Social proof. Another one is liking. We tend to like people who are like us. The 3rd fundamental principle is scarcity. If we can't have it, we want it. Number 4, authority. We tend to trust people in authority positions. Number 5, reciprocity. If someone's done something for you, you want to do something back for them. And number 6, commitment and consistency is another one of those examples. Let me give an example of social proof. One of the things I'd like you all to work on is build your number of Google reviews. Build Google reviews. The more Google reviews you have, the more social proof you're providing. I happened to check right before we went online tonight for this webinar. LifeSmiles currently has 914 Google reviews, all rated 5 stars. I'm not saying that to boast. Well, maybe a little. But 914 5-star Google reviews. By the way, in addition to being in the organic section of the Google search, you want to be in the map section. The map section will only present 3 dental offices. It's called the Google 3-pack. We're always in the maps because of the sheer number of Google reviews that we have. In the maps when someone's looking for a dentist in Phoenix, we'll be at the top of the maps. We'll be number one with 914 reviews. The next one might be another office that has 230 reviews. The third one might be another office that has 220 reviews. And when mom looks at that, mom makes a value social proof. She looks at 914 reviews. She said, that must be the better office, especially if it's a 5-star ranking. If the office that has 330 reviews has a 4.8 star ranking, and the one that has 220 has a 4.9, she's going to pick us. That's social proof, an example of social proof. Now, I want to give you a different example I want to give you the liking example of social proof. Let me do that here. The second most visited page on your website after the home page is the About the Doctor page. About the Doctor. Now, before I started working with my current agency, this was the photo I had on the About the Doctor. That's Dr. Paul. I think we'd agree that's a nice professional photo. By the way, he not only is a dentist, but he has a mastership in the Academy of General Dentistry. We put his credentials there. David, on yours, we should put not only DDS, but we should put other credentials in there, your AACD credentials as well. You're not only accredited by the AACD, but you have a FAACD. Is that correct?
I'm a fellow.
Yeah, you're a fellow.
So we put all of them, the fellow of the ASDA and
all of them.
Fellow of the ACE.
By the way, that will help you in Google ranking massively, for sure. But what my marketing company said, remember who's the visitor to our site? It's mom. And they said, put a picture of Paul, family photo. Paul, his wife Erin, and their 4 kids. So here's the photo that we added. Here's Dr. Paul, his wife Erin, and their 4 kids. He's got 3 sons and a daughter. Which photo do you think mom is more interested in? The family photo. But if you're not married and have a family, don't go rent one for your photo. Don't do that. That's not ethical. Talk about the things you're interested in. Maybe you enjoy cooking. Maybe you enjoy gardening. Maybe you enjoy surfing. Put photos of what you do. It helps people develop a connection with you. Well, we did the same thing with Tim. Here's Dr. Tim's photo. I think we'd agree that's a nice looking photo. Here's Tim Schmidt, DMD. He graduated from Oregon, mastership in the Academy of General Dentistry. But here's the family photo. Here's Tim, his beautiful wife, Brittany. Here's Tim's 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. Mom's more interested in that. That's all about liking. We're giving people a reason. Mom is going to be more drawn to that photo than she is this photo. Is it possible that you can do everything to master digital marketing? And the answer is yes. I did it myself until 6 years ago. However, it took me an average of 15 to 18 hours a week to do this stuff. Most dentists don't have an extra 15 to 18 hours a week. We had a simple arrangement at LifeSmiles. Paul and Tim do the dentistry. I'm not a dentist, so I don't do the dentistry. That wouldn't work. And so I do the business. However, I didn't want to spend that much time to do it. I had other ways to spend my time. So I searched for a marketing agency that could do this for us. So I'm going to show you who we use in just a minute. So you can do it, but it's kind of an uphill battle. The most important metric that you want to have in marketing is the number of phone calls that come in from digital marketing. Now, I will comment that I absolutely love one of your products, Steve, in your suite, which is LocalMed. LocalMed is amazing. And LocalMed is gaining traction by the day in terms of consumer using online real-time scheduling. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely is. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Would you still agree with me that the dominant way a new patient comes in is the phone?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
But on real-time online scheduling is it's up and coming, and if you don't have that, you need to get LocalMed. I'm sure there's a demo opportunity for LocalMed. Mm-hmm. Correct? Yep. Would you put a link to that in chat?
Yeah, I will right now.
Yeah. We love using LocalMed to reactivate past due hygiene patients. It's one of the best applications for LocalMed, in my opinion. Is we can send them a text message, and then we can say, hey, we missed you, David. This is Carly from LifeSmiles Dental Care, your dental office. We missed you. I'm reaching out to you to schedule your next hygiene appointment. Hey, you can, we give a benefit statement. David, if we see you on a regular basis in hygiene, we accomplish two things. We keep you as healthy as possible. We reduce your future dental expenses. Hey, you can call me like you always have, and we can make an appointment that works for you and us. Or you can just make the appointment online, and we put the local med link. And guess what will happen? With many, many people will click that link. If you're not familiar with it, it's a lot like, I would describe it, Steve, as it's like the dental version of Open Table. Most of us are familiar with Open Table for restaurant reservations. Now, that really doesn't do justice to how cool local med is, but is that an acceptable explanation?
For sure.
I like
it. Yeah. So if you want to evaluate how your marketing company is doing, here's some questions to ask your marketing company. How many NAP profiles are being managed? If they say, what's NAP, run as fast as you can. Number two, how many quality backlinks? How many times does your website get traffic from another website demonstrating that you have authority and trust? How many backlinks get backlinked to you? David, you have a ton of backlinks. Other sites that are citing you and they direct traffic to your website. The Google Lighthouse score by page, just ask, hey, what's my Lighthouse score by website page? By the way, how many website pages do I have? Are we compliant with the Google Eat update? What does that look like? What are the number of optimized website pages that are ranking in Google? So these are analytics. Weston Lunsford, your founder, or one of your co-founders, Steve, taught me a saying, and I want to give Weston credit. I don't think he made it up, but I credit him as I learned it from him. Weston said, data never lies. That ought to be like your byline for dental intelligence. Data never lies. People do, but data never lies. Well, that's what we're going here for. We're going for data. Do you have any duplicate website content? If you do, you're not getting on page one. So the marketing agency I use at Life Smiles and we recommend to my coaching clients is a company called Equa, E-K-W-A. They're located in Toronto, Canada. They work with dental offices to help them master the world of digital marketing. I was referred to them by a very trusted colleague 6 years ago. We've been using them for 6 years. I gave it about a year of working with them before I started recommending to my coaching clients. David, is kind of like a specialist. If you're referring to a specialist, you want to be very careful recommending a specialist because you don't want to have egg on your face if the specialist doesn't meet your standards. Well, we did the same thing. We vetted them for about a year. Once I was very confident in the results, I started recommending them to our clients. Lila Stone is our director of marketing. They were kind enough to share this link. You can schedule a complimentary marketing strategy meeting with Lila. She'll spend about 6 hours researching your website. She'll show you what you look like in the eyes and mind of Google, how you perform, how your website performs, what areas are doing well and what areas represent opportunities for improvement. You can go to equa.com/MSM. That stands for Marketing Strategy Meeting. It's free. They normally have a $900 fee for that. They're waiving that fee for anyone attending the webinar tonight. I'd recommend you do that. It was one of the most important business meetings I did, and that was over 6 years ago. I spend less on marketing than I ever have, and I get better results. I have their permission to talk fees. They use a flat monthly fee. It's all inclusive. It's $1,200 a month. It's all for our organic search engine optimization. They write your website. They manage the website. They manage all the things that I put up there. And they do that for a flat fee of $1,200 a month. If you annualize that, that's $14,400. That's a heck of a lot less than you're paying those insurance companies in the form of those dental insurance write-offs. I know $14,400 is not chump change, but that's all most of my clients are paying for marketing these days because of the effectiveness of that. Anyway, equa.com/MSM. All right. Step 3, I'm going to get nerdy on this now. An in-office membership plan. Another detail in successfully dropping plans. So I want you to think of your in-office membership plan as your own Office Amazon Prime or a Costco membership card. Think of it that way. It's a wonderful way to roll out the red carpet to people in your community who do not have dental insurance. By the way, the universe of people that don't have dental insurance is larger than the universe of people that do. We were one of the first offices in 2007 to have an in-office membership plan. Our in-office plan is called our TLC savings plan, Tender Loving Care Savings Plan. By the way, you can't call it a dental insurance plan. You don't want to call it insurance. You don't want to even get confused with that garbage. So you can call it a TLC membership plan, a Smile Club, Smile Savings Plan, my VIP Smile Saving Plan. You know, use your creativity to come up with something like that. Now, here's how to do it. When people don't have dental insurance, they don't ask you two questions. Are you in network? It's irrelevant. And secondly, they're not going to say, if you present dentistry to them, does my dental insurance cover it? It's immaterial. I love not getting those two questions. So one of the ways to build your practice and reduce insurance dependence is go find people that don't have insurance. That universe of people is growing. Now, here's some details. Come up with an annual fee that covers 2 hygiene visits, x-rays, and doctor exams. 2 visits. Come up with whatever fee you want for that. I like to do it annually, not monthly. The reason I like to do it annually is because now they're prepaying for their hygiene appointments. When they prepay, guess what? They show up. I want them to show up for hygiene because I want the exams. And then provide a savings on any service in your practice to your membership plan patient. Now, I don't like that discount. I want to recognize that. I don't like that. But I'll explain in a minute. So we tested across a few hundred, actually 400 practices, various discount percentages to find out the sweet spot. What is the right discount? We wanted to be enough of a discount to motivate people to sign up, but we want it to be as low as possible to not negatively impact the practice. So we tested 20%, 15%, 18%, 15%, 12%, 10%, and 8%. Remember, anything less than 45, it's a win, because 45 would be the PPO plan. By the way, what we learned was 10% was the sweet spot. So we offer them a 10% discount. I don't like the 10% discount for a minute, but it's a lot better than 45%. And that applies to anything in your practice. Think how cool this is for the patient. No games. I mean, if they want to come in 4 months after their first hygiene appointment, can they have their second hygiene appointment? You bet. They get 2 a year. Heck, if they come in on, I know what I'm about to say doesn't make sense clinically, but if Linda comes in on Tuesday for her first hygiene appointment, but she wants to come in on Thursday for her second one, I know that doesn't make sense clinically. Knock yourself out, Linda. You bet. We have no exclusions. Anything we do is covered by that. No exclusions. No games. No claims. Not filing any claims. How cool is that? It's win-win. It's a win for you. It's a win for your patient. The only one that loses is Delta. I'm fine with that. More details. Keep your plan simple. Don't make it too elaborate. Make it something your team members can explain in 2 sentences. Hey, Steve, we're family people here at Life Smiles. We understand budgets. We wanted to come up with something that would benefit the wonderful people, here in American Fork that don't have insurance. Let me tell you about our TLC savings plan. Boom. The universe of people who don't have dental insurance is growing and will continue to grow. It's larger than the universe of people that do. Now, I want you to think about this. 3 specific groups of people. There's many people that won't have dental insurance, but here's 3 groups to think of because you can target them to market. Retirees. Steve, let me ask you, where is the town that you live in Utah, that you yourself live in?
Vineyard, Utah is what it's called, where I live.
Vineyard. Mm-hmm. I actually know where that is.
Nice.
Are there any retirees in Vineyard?
Yeah, there are some retirees in Vineyard. It's a pretty young town, but yeah, there are retirees in there.
Okay, but there are some, right? Okay. Now, let's go to the other age spectrum. Got any millennials?
We've got a crap ton of millennials in my city.
By the way, that's an official term, by the way, crap ton. And by the way, if you want to find the millennials, they all live in the basement of the retirees. Okay, I'm kidding, but not really. Now, here's another group of people. Tell me if you have any of these. Gig economy workers. Now, gig economy workers are freelancers, independent contractors, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, Airbnb owners, VRBO owners, Etsy shop owners. You got any of those in Vineyard?
Yeah, actually, we do have a decent amount of those.
So my point is, anywhere we go, David, I could say the same thing about you in San Diego. Sure, all those groups are in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go find them. All right. Number 4, train your team to fully support your plan to drop PPO plans. How we're going to do this is we're going to talk to our team members about my favorite radio station, WIIFM, my favorite radio station. We're going to talk about verbal skills training, how to have a consistent message coming out from your team members. We're going to talk about a dedicated team meetings to some role playing. They're not going to like it, but we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about the ultimate team meeting. All right, let me roll on this. You'll like this. All right, WIFM. WIFM's not my favorite radio station. It's actually an acronym. It stands for What's in It for Me. It's funny when you say WIIFM, it actually sounds like it could be a radio station because it ends in FM, but it's not. What's in it for me? What I mean by that is, as you talk to your team members about your plan to drop insurance plans, speak with your team members about what's in it for them. What's in it for them? Like what? Maybe a more sane work schedule. How about the more financially successful the practice is, the more potential financial success for our team members? How about having more patients who truly appreciate the dentist and team members rather than having an upset patient about the limitations of their insurance? When they're upset at Delta, who does a patient voice their upset to? Your financial coordinator. They're not upset at the benefit supervisor at work. They're mad at your insurance coordinator, which is totally unfair. And they get the wrath of that. Do you accept my insurance? We talked about this a little bit earlier. New patient calling. Or are you in network with my plan? I like the way it was phrased better. Are you in network? Again, here's the verbal skills. We love seeing new patients here at Life Smiles Dental Care. You called the right office. By the way, great phrase to use for any caller. You called the right office. My name's Carly. Who am I speaking with? Linda. It's great to meet you by phone. I look forward to meeting you face to face. Let me answer your question. Although we are not in network with Delta, you can absolutely use your Delta insurance benefits here. When you come in, you'll meet Meg. She's our insurance coordinator. She's your advocate to help you get every dollar of benefit from your Delta dental insurance policy. Her job is to help you get every dollar of benefit you have. Linda, we have many patients who have the very same insurance that you have. Would you like a morning or afternoon appointment? Very effective. We convert 90% of our new patient calls to a new patient appointment. And many of them are going to be asking the question, do you take my insurance? Team meetings. I want to encourage you to schedule a couple of dedicated team meetings to role play practice with your team. Now heads up. Think of these meetings as a dress rehearsal. If you were an actor or actress in a community play, the producer would schedule a number of dress rehearsals before opening night. That's what this is. Now, here's the heads up. Be prepared for resistance from your team members. I've been doing this for a long time. I've yet to meet a team member that likes to do role playing. Maybe that person exists. I just haven't met him yet. But they don't like to. Well, it's very important. Just push through it. Push through resistance, guys. Come on. Now, first role-playing meeting, hand them the script. Let them use the script. No problem with that. Can be a very good way to get comfortable with the language. Just practice. After the first role-playing meeting, ask your team members to use their own words. If they can't use their own words, tell them to stick to the script. It's that easy. Now, let's make it successful. Here's some tips. Make it fun. Make these meetings fun. Recognize that for some of your team members, this topic is unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and they don't feel like they have any skills around it. You go first. You lead it and stumble. Hey, this isn't easy for me, guys, but let me go first. Make it a safe environment. Laugh at each other. Laugh at yourself. Give immediate feedback, suggestions for improvement. Keep practicing until you're getting consistent responses from your team member. Practice, practice, practice. Here's the ultimate team meeting. In a separate meeting, all hands, every one of your team members, don't prepare them ahead of time for this. I want it to be spontaneous. Go around the room and ask each team member to give one answer, just one, to the following question. Why should patients come here for their dental care? Go around the room. Now, here's the rules. No repeat responses. Everyone has to come up with a unique answer. All right? Go around twice. And you go last, doctor being last, because it's always hard to go last because they use up all the good ones. And you're going to go around the room twice. Now, recently I did this, Steve, virtually. I did it in a Zoom meeting with a client of mine. Doctors and team members numbered 26, a big office, 26 people. We went around the room twice. And by the way, it was rapid fire. Boom, 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 boom. 26. 52 unique responses, right? Going around twice. The office manager jumped in and she said, Gary, I know you said we only had to do this twice, but can we, I have so much confidence in my team. Can we go around one more time? I said, you bet. Go for it. They go around the room one more time. Again, didn't miss a beat. Do the math. 26 times 3, 78 unique responses. Do you think this office was ready to go out of network? Heck yes. What would happen? I've never seen this, what I'm about to describe happen, but what would happen? Let's say you have a team of 8. I'm making up a more realistic example. 8, doctor and 7, 8 people. And what happens if we get to team member number 4 and we got crickets? Why should patients come here for their dental care? We're on number 4 and we got nothing. And guess what? Don't go out of network. You're not ready. I've been asked in the past, have I ever had anyone fail by going out of network? And honestly, the answer is no. But let me qualify that. 5 times in my career, I have worked with a client, they've wanted to go out of network, and I've advised them, do not do this. Your practice isn't prepared for this. You are not providing enough benefits that the patients understand. Your practice is no different than the clinic down the street. And I'm using clinic in the bad way. Every time, I don't like delivering that message because it's not the message I want to deliver. But I have a professional obligation to my clients. And it's like, no, don't do this. This would be suicide for you. Don't do it. It's not that you could never do it, but right now you're not offering any reasons why people should come to you. Every time I've done that, the doctor has said, Gary, that was my hunch, but I wanted to get a second opinion on that. And you're confirming what I already know. And then we go to work on giving reasons to come to your practice. If you don't have that, don't go out of network because you're no different than the clinic in the box down the street. Talk about what you learn. By the way, all of these responses can be used as your team members are talking about going out of network. We inherited an assistant named Heidi when we bought our practice. She was there for 14 years before us. She's been there 15 with us, so that's 29 years. And when we did this, Heidi's German. German's her first language, and she's wonderful. If I could grab a lock of her hair and clone her, I'd put her in every dental office in the country. She's amazing. But I remember being in the hallway one time, and the patient says, I don't know, Heidi, money's kind of tight. I think I'm going to have to go to an in-network doctor. And Heidi said, Cheryl, you'd be nuts to go to another dentist. Now, that was not a taught verbal skill. That wasn't part of her verbal skills. But she said, you'd be nuts to go anywhere else. She said, I've worked for many dentists in my career. We were a solo dentist at the time, just Dr. Paul. And she said, I've worked for many dentists in my career. And I've never met anyone that is as committed to quality as Dr. Paul. You'd be nuts to go anywhere else. That's actually a very good verbal skill, if it's real. And it was real for her. Step 5, elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. Have a relationship-driven practice as your secret sauce. People want to visit a dental office where they're being taken care of by a dentist and team members who they know, like, and trust. It is your secret sauce. Your practice can either be a transaction-driven practice or a relationship-driven practice. Which one do you want? Take as long as you like. A transaction-driven practice is a race to the bottom. Absolute race to the bottom. And by the way, that's a race you don't want to win, because if you win, you lose. And what dental insurance does is commoditize dentistry. A crown's a crown's a crown, as far as insurance companies are concerned. And a veneer's a veneer and veneer. And David, we know a lot better than that, correct?
We know that.
Yeah. I mean, just even look at the quality of the lab work. I mean, I've sent a number of my clients, David, to your hands-on course, your live patient course in Utah. And every doctor has said, I thought I recognized high quality lab work until I met Utah Valley Dental Lab. I thought I knew what that was. But wait a minute, I'm now seeing a level I didn't know was there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear that.
All the time.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. So what do you want, transaction driven or relationship driven? I want relationship driven. One of the best quotes that I like to describe relationship driven is this quote from the noted poet Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's really what it means to have a relationship driven practice. You and your team, committed to that. In a relationship-driven practice, we know our patients' names. We know their spouse's name. We know their kids' names. We know the name of their dog. We know their hobbies, their interests, the college they went to, their important dates in their life. We know these things. By the way, I was asked recently by a client, Gary, I have a big practice. I have a few thousand patients. How can I remember all of them? And I said, you don't have to remember them all at all times. You just have to remember the ones you're seeing today. And he said, wait a minute, I can do that. So one of my mentors, Dr. Reed, this is Dr. Reed right here. We lost Dr. Reed in January of 2020. He passed away at the age of 89. By the way, he practiced dentistry until he was 87 by choice. He spent the last 15 years of his career from age 72 to 87 working 100 days a year. And it wasn't like 2 days a week for 50 weeks. He might work 3 weeks and then he and Marcy would go to New Zealand for 3 weeks. But he'd work 100 days a year. Pretty cool. Dr. Reed had a Rolodex. When I met him in the early 80s, he had a Rolodex card file. That's kind of, the millennials won't know what I'm talking about. But he had a Rolodex card file, and he had a card for every one of his patients. It was an oversized, like a 5x8 card. And it was alphabetized. And in between his patients, he'd write notes on that card. He'd write the spouse's name, the kid's name, the dog's name, their hobbies, their interests, all that stuff. And and over the years, those note cards became a treasure trove of information. Well, that was cool, but what he did with it was even cooler. He would come into the practice 30 minutes before his morning huddle. And Dr. Reed's hours were unique, 6 to 2, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Morning huddle was 5:45. He'd show up at 5:15. He'd look at the daily schedule. He'd pull up the card on every patient he was seeing. And when you were in if it was me, in Dr. Reed's practice, he would come into the high, Gary, it's good to see you. How's Therese? How's her yoga studio going? And I've got to ask you about your grandson, Kanan. How's he doing? Now, by the way, if you don't care about your patients, don't do this. But I'm pretty sure if you're here on a Thursday night, getting late, if we're out east, you care about your patients. Steve, I think it's pretty safe to say any dental and tel clients care about their patients.
Yes, absolutely.
Any doctors that come to your courses, David, care about their patients. I think that's accurate. Key concept taught by Dr. Pankey was to know your patient. Know your patient. Truly know your patient, not just on a surface level, but truly know them. He understood that truly knowing your patient results in a deeper connection and a bond that you have with your patients. They, in turn, develop a deeper connection and bond with you. This, sadly, has become increasingly rare in healthcare today. But it can be accurate in dentistry. We can do this. If you want to be relationship driven, if we want our team members to be relationship driven, we have to model that. Just a question. How well do you know your team members? Do you know their spouse's name? Do you know their kids' names? Do you know their hobbies? Do you know their interests? Do you know their faith? Do you know where they went to school? Do you know their values? Do you know what they like to do with their spare time? If we show that to our team members, they're going to model that to your patients. Here's some simple things you can do. Take that Rolodex card concept and now digitize it. Find somewhere in your practice management software to put those notes. Don't put it in clinical notes because it'll get lost. And by the way, invite your team members to add information to the notes because they often learn more than you do about their patients, about your patients. Come 20 minutes before the start of your day and look at the notes on every patient you're going to see today. I know I'm not winning any friends by asking you to come in 20 minutes early. Think of this as your daily prep time. Send an evening we care text. We used to do evening we care calls, and 99% of those would be voice messages. We now send them by text. Hey, David, it's Dr. Paul, your dentist. I always like to follow up with my patients on the evening of treatment. I was just checking in with you to see how well you're doing. And maybe David shared with Dr. Paul that, hey, he's headed to Mexico this weekend. And Dr. Paul might say, hey, wishing you a great visit down to Mexico again this weekend. No need to return my text. Just want to let you know I was thinking about you. Team can write the text, write down notes and hand them to your team members so when they build those text messages, they can customize them. Now, this is old school. This is OG. Handwritten thank you notes. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but who might you send? I like to send out 4 or 5 handwritten notes to your patients. By the way, don't write them yourself. Have your team write them. You just scribble your signature. Maybe patients who just completed significant treatment. David, maybe the patient that drives from Orange County to come down and see you. Now, if there's traffic, that's a 2-hour drive. You have patients like that, correct?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah. Hey, George, I know you drive a long way to come see us. I just wanted to thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your trust and confidence. It means the world to me. Thanks for being part of our patient family. David, patients who are just pleasant, a joy to be around. You know, Maria, when I see your name on my schedule, I know I'm going to have a good day. I wish everyone was like you. Thanks for being part of our patient family. Patients who proactively respond to your treatment recommendations. Thanks for your commitment to your health. I wish all of our patients were as committed as you. I appreciate you. Thanks for being part of our patient community. Handwritten thank you notes. They're old school. And the more we go digital, the more important this is because it stands out. No one does this anymore. Step 6, provide high-value services. There's no blueprint to follow on this one. You have to pick the things you like to do. I hope it involves veneers and smile design, and I hope you're considering David your mentor for that. David and Mark and Dee Dee. What an A-team you have there, David.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Love doing it.
Think about the clinical areas that interest you and use those to create your own unique selection of high-value services. Whatever that is, pick the things you like. Here's some to consider. Place and restore implants. Adult ortho. Love adult ortho. Invisalign, we do Invisalign 6-month smiles, but choose your weapon. Cosmetic dentistry, of course, helping people have a gorgeous smile. David, you probably know that the largest generational group in our society today are millennials now. They've replaced the baby boomers because the baby boomers are dropping off, and the millennials is now the largest generational group. I personally think that there is a ton of aesthetic dentistry to do with millennials, and I'll share with you why. I'm going to back that up. Do you know, David, that of millennials who are on Instagram, and that's their social media site, you know, for millennials. They love Instagram. They're not on Facebook. They like Instagram. Do you know that 67% of millennials have photoshopped their own smile in their profile photo? Not just put a filter on it. You know, when you put a filter on it, you know, not just filter. They photoshopped. What does that tell you? They don't like their smile. They're our next group. Are you seeing more and more millennial patients in your practice interested in aesthetic dentistry?
Yeah, majority still baby boomers, but yeah,
right.
A lot of millennials. You know, they want to look good, and because they take so many selfies, you know, I'm surprised at 67%. I think most of them either close their mouth or they put some kind of filter that you can't tell even if they have teeth.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to spend money. And I also think that we're going to have to repair a bunch of these millennials' teeth that use Smile Direct Club.
Exactly. No doubt. No doubt. You know, Smile Direct Club's spending a lot of money, and there's people that are going that route, but it's going to have to be repaired. I think you're right. Maybe oral conscious sedation. I like oral conscious sedation, triazolam. Maybe complex restorative dentistry. You know, in Phoenix, we have a segment of our population that are older, have more complex dental needs. Maybe we want learn how to provide beautiful full mouth reconstructive dentistry. Maybe it's treating sleep apnea with appliance therapy. Go an opposite way. Maybe it's the ankle glossia procedure, the lip and tongue tie release. We use a laser to do a lip and tongue tie release for an infant, so the infant can nurse successfully. Now, some of you might think, I'd rather slam my head in the car door than do that. That's okay. You don't have to do it. Find something you like. All right, here's that 6-step plan. Know your data, develop comprehensive digital marketing plan, create an office membership plan, get your team 100% supportive of the plan, elevate the as good as you are, get even better. And I'm a firm believer that all of us, David, I think your practice is a stunning example of a relationship-driven practice. I think you guys rock, absolutely rock it.
I agree with that.
But would you also say there is room for improvement?
Not a whole lot. I've had the same employees.
Maybe incremental.
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little. Maybe just a little.
But we have a great team.
You do.
Team that love each other and want success, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're very fortunate to have them, and they're very fortunate to have you, for sure. All right. I'll kind of come into the closing here. Dr. Pankey introduced me to his mastery ladder. Some of you have heard this and some of you have not. And Dr. Pankey observed that dentists fall into various levels of achievement. And here's his observation. This is his. I believe it's accurate. He said 2% of all dentists in the world will achieve mastery status. That's truly where they have absolutely mastered the art and science of dentistry. Any of us would jump in their chair in a heartbeat, and it'd be a privilege to be taken care of by them. 2%, that's it. They can still get better, but they're always looking at improvement, but they've achieved mastery. David, I would politely nominate you as a dentist that's achieved mastery status.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
8% are highly adept. That was Dr. Pankey's really, really, really good dentist. We jump in their chair, given the opportunity. They're not quite at mastery. I won't use any names, David, but you and I can think of some that fit there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there's a third rung. It's a larger group. 36% are students, not in the concept of being dental students, but they're aspiring to move up the ladder, aspiring to become highly adept and perhaps mastery. And then there's 54% that are indifferent. They don't care. There's the mastery. And my question to you is, where do you want to be on that mastery ladder? You're not going to get there by accident. Where do you want to be? I read something the other day that resonated with me. That David said, no one ever ended up on the top of Mount Everest by accident. I thought that was pretty interesting. It's by intention.
Yeah.
No one's ever accidentally competed in an Ironman. In a 140.6, the full Ironman. No one's accidentally competed in an Ironman. It was intentional. Where do you want to be? And what are you going to do to get there? All right. Dale Carnegie said it, and he said it well. Knowledge isn't power until it's applied. You've learned some things tonight, but until you apply it, you're not going to get the full benefit of it. What now? I have an invitation for you. I'll extend that invitation. Consider coaching if your goals include reducing your insurance dependence, having overhead no higher than 60%, having an effective work-life balance. I haven't talked about this tonight, but one of the things I aspire to for all my clients is to achieve an effective work-life balance. Most dentists don't feel like they have an effective work-life balance. David, you have a great work-life balance.
I have a great work-life balance.
But much of you did a way better job than I did on this.
Why do you say that?
I did not, for most of my career, I did not have a good work-life balance. I started my own consulting firm in 1989. I can't blame it on having a lousy boss because it was me, but I used an excuse. And my excuse was, someday I'll do that. Someday I'll do that. I always had a business rationale for why I needed to focus on my business, not my family. And then I blinked my eyes and my youngest daughter turned 18. And I have a regret. My regret is that I didn't make it a higher priority to have a great work-life balance. I have it now. I'm very fortunate. You know, Therese, David, and I'm very fortunate. I married up, and I'm very fortunate to have an amazing wife because my kids were raised by my wife. I was the weekend Disney dad. I'm very fortunate that she was grounded. She raised them, taught them great values, and we have 4 amazing kids, adults now. But I was more of an observer to that. It's only the last number of years that I've achieved an effective work-life balance. And I have a regret about that. And I can't go back and make that right for me, but I can help others get there sooner. And that's my passion now. Consider coaching if doing more of the dentistry you enjoy is important to you. Do more cosmetic dentistry. Consider coaching if a practice that provides personal, professional, and financial satisfaction is of interest to you. And developing a practice to full potential. Here's some information. We do accept new clients. I am accepting new clients. I would be your coach. I don't have junior coaches. I don't have associate coaches. I'd be your coach. I do have a team that supports our work. They work behind the scenes with your team. If you like information, go to thrivingdentist.com /coaching. Steve, would you mind putting that in chat?
Sure.
Just so we have it. Thrivingdentist.com /coaching. You can learn about our coaching services. If you'd like to talk to me, I actually have a way to do that. You can go to thrivingdentist.com /CSM. It stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. Go to thrivingdentist.com /coaching strategy meeting. Now, my schedule looks a little bit jammed up right now because we're headed to we're headed to Yellowstone National Park next week. We'll be there for about a week and a half. We're taking our whole family, all the kids, all our grandkids, all their families will be up in Yellowstone. So my first available appointment for scheduling that, it's literally an online scheduler like LocalNet. Just click it and find an appointment and set it up. I do that meeting with you. My purpose of that meeting is to learn about your practice, you to learn about our coaching, and see if it might be a good fit. I think I've come up with something pretty cool in terms of pricing. I copied Equa. I liked what they did so well. I copied it. There's no onboarding fee. There's no upfront fee. There's no travel expenses. We do it all virtually. That's one of the ways I've helped to achieve work-life balance, is not traveling like a kook like I did for many years. And we do it all virtually. And I have a flat monthly service fee. It's $16.47 a month. I honestly don't know why it's $16.47. I think my office manager attended one of those fee courses that said if you end the fee in 7, that's like a lucky number and that's a good thing. I honestly don't know. I don't know why it's $16.50. It's $16.47 a month. I have a 12-month agreement. After that, it's it goes month to month. My goal would be to work with you and have you work with us on an ongoing basis, because we continue to provide value. I'd like to provide such value to you that you wouldn't want to practice without me.
We got to wrap up, Barry. I apologize, but the people on the East Coast got to.
All right, here's the last slide.
Get going. Yeah.
Here's the last slide. Promise yourself. Promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. Promise yourself to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to everyone you meet. Promise yourself to help all your friends feel that there's something in them. Promise yourself to look at the sunny side of everything and make your optimism come true. Promise yourself to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and expect only the best. Promise yourself to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as you are about your own. Promise yourself to forget the mistakes of the past and press on to the achievements of the future. Promise yourself to wear a cheerful countenance at all times and give every living creature you meet a smile. Promise yourself to give so much time to the improvement of yourself that you have no time to criticize others. And finally, promise yourself to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. That was Dr. Pankey's favorite poem. It was written in 1920, 102 years ago. Dr. Pankey shared it with me when I met him. And I've carried that with me in laminated card in my wallet ever since. Guys, on that note, let me simply say thank you. Oops,
thank you, Gary. You're the one that shared with us, and we appreciate that.
I want to thank you, Steve, Dental Intelligence. I want to thank